She got into IIM Rohtak when she was done with 12th, and she also got into SSCBS. But she chose SSCBS DU over IIM Rohtak ka IPM program. And I'm really curious to know, what was your mindset behind this decision? This coffee is so good. I need a boost. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Chitjai. I am so excited for this episode because we are with Nishtha. So Nishtha, let me tell you a little bit about her. She got 99.9 what percentile in CVT?
Actually, you'll have to go to my YouTube video to check that.
That's a good content creator. And she is a graduate of Shahid Sukhdev College, DU. She graduated in 24. Currently, she's working in consulting. She has interned at so many places. She's interned at DE Shaw, she's interned at Vodafone, Nestle. She's actually got an exchange program to Japan, which is unheard of for DU students. I did not know there was even a thing. She's also a content creator where she basically shares an entire journey throughout college and throughout her career as she's starting out and helps out students. So I think this will be really, really helpful for our audiences. So, let's start with the big question. She got into IIM Rohtak when she was done with 12th, and she also got into SSCBS. But she chose SSCBS DU over IIM Rohtak ka IPM program. And I'm really curious to know, what was your mindset behind this decision?
First of all, thank you for that kind introduction. I hear that. I feel that's a bit of an exaggeration, but I feel that I try to do whatever comes my way. And so thank you for that. And this is Avish's audience. I don't think so I need to introduce to her, but I'm really inspired by whatever you're doing on your content and social media. I really love your vlogs, so keep posting that. And to come to your question, how and why did I decide to leave IPM for DU? See, basically both are good options. I won't be demeaning any option or telling any option might be superior here, because I personally feel that a lot of factors went into my personal decision. And for someone, IIM Rohtak might be better, or let's say any IPM program for that matter would be better. My factors were basically, I did not want to do an MBA right after graduation, and I was not very sure if I could leave IPM after 3 years with a hefty loan. So I was not sure of that. I was definitely wanting to work for a few years before going for my master's, wherever and whenever I go. Plus, I wanted some free time for myself during my graduation, which is something that was told to me that IPM kids don't get any time to...
Very, very true.
to actually, they might get time, but it's a lot more rigorous academically, which is not the case with Delhi University in general. You guys have a trimester system, right?
Yeah, so most IIMs do, but Jammu ka semester.
Got it.
So they're more chill.
IIM Rohtak has a trimester system. I watched someone's vlog on IIM Rohtak, and I think it was meant to motivate kids to, see this is how life at IIM Rohtak is.
The opposite.
But when I saw that, I was like, I'm not ready for a trimester system. I can't be waking up every day to new quizzes. Let me get that portion. Let me reserve that portion for my MBA, because I know MBA will be hectic, but I did not know if I was ready for that thing during my undergrad. Of course, things worked out in my favor, but had I not gotten into SSCBS, I'm not sure if I would have left IIM Rohtak. So it was a very, very specific decision of IIM Rohtak versus SSCBS and not a DU versus IPM.
Very true. From what I've heard, SSCBS culture is also very different from all of the other DU colleges. Even SRCC, KMC say it's quite different. I don't have no idea, because I don't really get time to talk to my DU friends. So I would love to hear from you, what is the difference?
I feel SSCBS has a very corporate vibe. If you look at the infrastructure starting, of course that won't play much of a difference in the culture. But if you just look at the building, it does not look like a college or a university. So I got the same auto driver on 2 days, and he dropped me off to college, and he asked me, "Ma'am, is everything all right at your home?" I was like, "Yes." कहते आप रोज हॉस्पिटल क्यों आ रहे हो? हॉस्पिटल I was like, नहीं, this is my college and यहाँ बच्चे पढ़ते हैं, ये पूरा कॉलेज है, यूनिवर्सिटी है. कहते अच्छा. So that's a funny joke, but yeah, I think culture wise we have a very business school vibe. If I were to do an MBA, or my friends were doing an MBA, whatever they tell me about the culture at IIM, ABCL, or whatever, ISB, whatever, XLRI, all of that is very similar to SSCBS. The curriculum that we study is exactly like the preliminary version of whatever subjects or curriculum we study at MBA. Of course, it's not that rigorous, but we get a taste of all the subjects that we're supposed to learn in MBA. Plus, there's a culture of internships and placements, just like it would be in an IIM. So SIP is taken very seriously. SIP is basically summer internship program. Consulting is one of the most sought after fields in SSCBS. Since people are studying finance, they tend to incline towards getting a CFA or an FRM during graduation and getting into finance roles post graduating. So I think being very focused on IB and consulting is a trait that most good business schools exhibit that SSCBS has replicated. There's a downside to this also, because if somebody wants to go into, let's say, civil services, they don't have that environment here. It's very unidirectional. As in, everyone wants to get into consulting or finance. If you want to do a startup, there's not a very great culture as of yet, but we do have an incubator inside our campus where you can apply for grants, and you have a co-working space inside campus where you can sit and dedicatedly do your work. You also get leniency on attendance if you have a startup. I am not sure if many SSCBS kids know this. But yes, that's there, but it's not as explored as the other case competition culture or the internship or placements culture, which I feel is a good and a bad point as well.
Yeah, no, but I think the unidimensional thing is actually really good because it gives you a sense of direction, which I feel a lot of undergrad students are probably lacking, which is something you get in IPM also. Okay, because you're exposed to so many different subjects, you're exposed to finance and marketing and everything, you're able to decide ki, Acha, I'm inclined to this. So you sort of get that here also. But I want to ask you, like, whatever expectation you had going into CBS would have been thoda different maybe from your actual experience, and what was your perception versus your actual experience?
Got it. I think I perceived it to be very chill, like any other Delhi University senior I had talked to at that point. And it could have been chill. It honestly, your experience in DU depends on how much of whatever you have, you're willing to do.
And what you do.
Yeah, exactly. I would have chilled not participating in case competitions, not being a part of the society culture, not bothering about internships. And there's nothing wrong in that. You know, if I have a different vision and a different purpose, I can totally skip all of this. But again, being in that environment where 100 of your friends are doing the same thing, then you also feel motivated to, you know, if they are doing, why am I not doing it? What better do I have to do? If I have had something better to do at that point, let's say very focused towards the government exam or very focused towards running a business, which would have turned out in my favor, I'm guessing. But I was not that. I let myself loose and did whatever the college, like, went in the direction in which the college wanted.
Whatever opportunities you
had. Exactly. And society culture is very strong at CBS.
I've heard.
It shapes a lot of your college experience. So I was fortunate enough to get into the societies I wanted to.
Which societies were you in?
I was in the entrepreneurship cell as well as the finance society.
Okay. And these are very actively working societies.
Most of the societies in CBS are very active. Having said that, societies are not the end of the world. I've seen many students making society culture in CBS their entire existence and worrying over it. But I would say just make the most of whatever you have around you. So I did not go into CBS with very high expectations of whatever I wanted to do. I was always like, I'll do whatever the college wants me to do. I'll make the most of whatever comes my way.
Yeah. And I feel like the point about societies and all, even in IPM at IIM Jammu, I see a lot of politics go down in societies and a lot of people getting way too involved into these things. And I guess to an extent it is good because it teaches you a lot of skills that will probably benefit you in corporate, a lot of interpersonal skills. But then a lot of people get really carried away into it and it kind of wastes all of their time.
Yeah.
So did you see that happening too?
Of course, definitely. I think it happens everywhere where power is involved.
Exactly.
Everyone wants to be at the top of the hierarchy and have that control over juniors and have that rapport with the professors. But I personally never chased that position of responsibility race. I was part of both the societies. I never contested for a president or a vice president of that society, because I was like, I am being in these societies because I like talking about entrepreneurship, let's say, or I like talking about case competitions of finance in my finance society. Or even if I don't, I just like around being these people who are a part of these societies. So my purpose was fulfilled when I joined these societies and was a part of them for the 3 years. So interacting with my seniors through that society, interacting with my juniors, being around my batchmates who were a part of that society, I think that fulfilled the purpose for me, and that should be the purpose for most of the people. It's good that you're getting an additional responsibility and opportunity to lead that society and shape the culture. Of course, go for it. But losing friendships over it is something I've never advocated.
Exactly.
Losing marks and grades over it is something I've never advocated for. And I personally also was not a fan of making societies the entire point of my college.
Yeah, but I feel like that social aspect wala point is very important, because I feel like the kind of friendships that you form there, those are really long-lasting friendships, because those are the people you interact with the most, you know?
Yes.
So I want to know if you were able to learn any skills and, you know, any sort of things that you could pick up on, which eventually helped you get all these internships that we were talking about that you were able to do.
Definitely there were instances where societies played a role in whatever I could do in my college. Talking about transferable skills, of course, we had sessions on Excel and PowerPoint in our societies. We had sessions about consulting and case competitions, or taken by our seniors who have, gone on to win international case competitions. Just being around these people, understanding how they communicate, how did they approach interviews in their time. I think all of this really helped. Apart from that, being in a society and being around certain kind of people shape you as a whole. At one point, the lines start fading on whatever I was before the society and how my personality is slowly shaping into the people I am surrounding myself with. So I think being around these people really helped me groom my personality as a whole, that I am guessing showed off in the interview.
I think that is what college is.
Yes.
It's like a personality development arc.
Yes.
You know, all the trauma that you're hit with, and you develop into this person, this complete person.
Yeah. One thing that I would definitely like to call out here is the spirit of, going on and trying no matter what.
Yeah.
When I saw these 10 people around me trying every other day for like crazy good opportunities, it's not even ki I'm first year mein, I shouldn't be eyeing that opportunity. They're like, kya hi hoga? The max I can do is I can get rejected. Let me get rejected. Why do I self-reject myself?
Yeah.
That was something that I really observed around in my friends, and that is something that I've picked for myself also. You might get rejected from interviews, you might get rejected from universities, but will you apply again? Will you take that rejection to heart, or will you just think it was one of an instance and you apply again or not? I think that spirit is something that I absorbed from my peer.
Yeah, I feel like getting rejected is so important, because even when I got into college, so I was eyeing this one particular committee. I applied to 2 committees. I got into one of them and I didn't get into the other one, which was my first priority. And I was absolutely shook to the core, because I was like, am I not capable enough? Am I really worse than all of these people? These people are getting selected, but not me. What have I done wrong? But later I found out that they didn't pick me because they felt that I was a better fit for the other committee.
Yeah.
And I also realized that I'm doing a much better job in that other place, and I wouldn't be able to extract as much being in that other committee. So the exposure to rejection is really important.
Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah, I think we have a very limited perspective when we talk about, tier 1 colleges and tier 1 MBAs and tier 1 jobs. Of course, people getting into these jobs are capable, right? You won't get there just by luck. But restricting yourself and your peer group to, let's say, a fancy brand name on paper does not make sense to me anymore. I was not like this when I first started college, because once you are in that environment, everyone is like, hum to SSCBS hai. So you naturally bound to absorb that energy also. But as in when I progressed through my college years and made friends outside of college, especially when I entered my job and made all these friends through content creation, I realized that is a very, very narrow perspective for anyone to carry. Whether you're in a tier 1 school or a tier 2 school does not matter. So being open to, interacting with people who are doing great for themselves. You went to a good college does not mean that it's the end of the world and it's your biggest achievement. What next? and people who keep doing bigger things in their next endeavors. I think those are the people to be around with and surround yourself with, not the people who went to, let's say, an IIM once and that's their whole identity.
Right. And on the contrary also, if you're maybe not in a tier 1 college, you're not in a top college, the college does not limit you.
Yes.
You know, that
Exactly.
that is not a ceiling for you. You can do things beyond your college.
Exactly.
Which I see that in my college too. You know, people have that feeling कि अच्छा हमारे इंदौर में नहीं हुआ, ये नहीं हुआ. But my perspective is like, get over it. You know, that was 2 years ago. What are you doing next?
Exactly.
Not just cracking CAT. That is one aspect of it.
Exactly.
But you can do other things. You get a lot of opportunities here that you then become blind to because you feel like you're missing out on something that you are deserving of.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yes.
So I think one thing I really like about DU culture is that, and I guess most colleges, you're able to get these breaks like summer break, winter break and all, where you're able to do internships, which is not available in IPM. Of course, we have designated internships ka time.
Yeah.
So tell me about your experience. You must have done internships usi time pe.
So I joined in COVID. My first semester was online.
Oh.
So our college life of 3 years was contracted into 2.5-ish years.
Oh. Yeah.
So first year was like very short, 4-month semesters and no breaks. The first vacation I got was when I was ending my second year, and when I was in Japan, that was the first time I got my first summer break.
Acha.
But before that, my case was an exception because my semester was contracted. So most of the internships that I did were remote, and because we were coming just coming out of COVID, that was like a very acceptable culture, which I think is not the case right now. Most of the firms want people to be in office for like at least 2 to 3
At
days.
least hybrid.
Yeah, at least hybrid. That time it was completely remote. And given the fact that we were just getting used to Zoom and all of that and getting remote work done, I could do the internships remotely. Yeah, for both of the internships, I went to the office for during the ending 2 weeks. That was the time I enjoyed the most, and I thought, yaar, I did all of this remotely. My experience would have been so much different had I been in the office during the entire duration. But yeah, that was just my case. I think students nowadays manage time alongside college to get the work done. It's also a bit of a struggle, I won't deny that. It was somewhat easier for us because nobody was expected to be in office as much as it is expected right now. But yeah, I think attendance, if you have that rapport with your professor and that understanding, and if you're generally not a troublesome kid in college, I feel your college will also support you if you want to do an internship, manage your academics and college work saath mein. I think it's pretty doable for DU kids at least.
So what were you looking for exactly when you joined these internships? Were you looking for like a particular role, particular domain?
See, I was doing internships so that I know what to look forward to. I did not restrict myself to like one kind of internship, which I think I get a lot of questions around this also. Let's say I want to go into finance, but I'm getting this good marketing role. Should I take it or not? I'm like, go for it. Do it. If you don't like it, you're anyway looking towards finance. But what if you like it? You might change your thought process and think, let's say, you'll start considering marketing as a good career option for yourself as well. So I worked with accelerators in my first year of college. I worked with a crypto startup. I worked in finance at D Shaw. I also worked in e-commerce at Nestle. So very, very different experiences. They sort of gave me the direction in which field I want to go. Having said that, I feel it's good that if you're very, very clear on what you want to do, just go and try internships in those areas. I personally did not enter these internships with a particular goal in mind. Everything was just, I am here to learn whatever you're willing to offer me.
And I think that's great because most people who are confused, they're just like sitting around and waiting for it to hit them. You know, like to have a random epiphany ki acha mujhe ye karna hai. But that's probably not how it works.
Yeah, exactly. You keep doing different things until you realize what you don't want to do.
Exactly. And so how were you going about getting these internships?
My case was very smooth, I would say. I got D Shaw at campus. It was the first researchship on campus. I applied to Nestle through their Nesternship program. Made it through that. Somewhat of a luck factor also. The other ones I got through my societies, the society that I was a part of, and some others I got through reaching out to my seniors and cold mailing. So really a mix of different things. I know campus internships don't work out for many people because they're so limited in opportunity, so limited in number, that you can't place your bets on getting a campus internship. But yeah, I think getting or not getting a campus internship does not limit you or restrict your potential, because people take that rejection to heart and say, yaar, 5 companies aa gayi hai campus pe, none of them took me, maybe something's wrong with me. Evaluate. There actually might be something that you're missing. But once you fix that, rejection is just a part of all the process. It does not say anything about you.
Exactly.
So just keep applying. It's just a numbers game.
Yeah, and you don't have to depend on your like college placement cell.
Yeah.
Like for example, recently I was on LinkedIn and I saw this guy's profile who's not at like a top BU college, not in IPM or anything, and he's interned at like Ogilvy and Edelman and everything because he's interested in digital marketing, advertising. And I was like, that's so cool.
Yeah.
And I asked him, like I reached out to him. He was like, yeah, I just emailed the HR, I sent in my resume and I got it.
Yeah.
So I feel like that helps out so much.
Exactly. Yeah, you have to shoot a shot that's way above your imagination and your reach. You have to believe that it's impossible for me to get to that role and keep applying to that. If you apply to 100, 10 will reply, 4 will take an interview, 1 might give you an offer, and that's all you need.
And I feel like because you did so many like diverse internships, so many roles, that would have also helped you out in consulting, because they're looking for someone who has a very complete profile, a very diverse, holistic profile.
Yeah, I think that's how I zero down on consulting, because I enjoy doing all of these different things around me.
Right.
Maybe consulting is the way to go. But there's a running joke as well on consulting that if you're confused in life and don't know what to do, you go to consulting. I'm not sure how true that is yet. But yeah, I have had a good experience so far.
I think from like all of my seniors and people around me, people like you who I see who are in consulting, I feel like it's all overachievers who are good at everything, who are toppers in every subject, and now they want to continue doing everything.
They're smooth toppers.
Yeah.
Even if, no, I shouldn't say that. They're smooth talkers in the sense that they will make you believe that they know a lot of things. Whether it's true or not, it's for you to decipher.
And to convince your clients that
that's one skill. Saying something absolutely stupid but making it so profound that you feel that I'm making sense. But actually I might be just bluffing with you.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much of that I've done so far in this video.
I hope not. So tell me about your exchange program. Another thing I'm really curious about, because I've never heard of anybody doing an exchange program in DO.
I think that was the highlight of my college life. We had an entrepreneurship program. There was this one professor. He was really involved with all these Japanese and Australian universities. He was also the head of the incubation center of our college. So really liked working with him and like attending his lectures also. He floated this program and he was like, this is a pilot program. Japan and India are figuring out if having such a program and having Indian students in Japan will have that entrepreneurial spirit in both of these countries. So they were exploring how this will pan out. I had applied the first time, I did not get in. It was a mix of GPA and whether I had a business idea in mind or not. How do I view Japan as a trade partner with India? All of that, they took interviews and all. But the first time I did not get in. So I was really heartbroken. I was really happy for the 2 friends who eventually went to Japan. And when they came back, I was like, tell me everything. Tell me, what did you do? How was it? How were the 15 days? 10 or 15 days? And the way they described it, I was like, bro, I have to go. I have to go. So I worked closely with the professor. I kept asking him, when's the next batch coming? And since the batch where my other 2 friends went, it was delayed because of COVID. The other batch came pretty soon. So I was like, sir, can you take my interview this time? I've improved my GPA also. Can you please consider me for this program? And then again, he floated the form to the entire batch. Then we had resumes and CVs, and somehow this time I got in. I was like, let's go. I had 3 other girls from other DU college with me. And so I could not believe I'm actually going to Japan until I was in Japan. It was so nice. It was for 10 to 12 days. We had to like build a business idea in a hybrid team. When I say hybrid team, I wouldn't say a hybrid team, it was a multicultural team. So every team had 1 person from India, 1 person from Japan, 1 person from Canada, 1 person from the UK, and 1 person from Australia. Every team had this structure. And so there were like 5 different countries interacting with each other and understanding how things in back their home work. So it was really, really interesting. Plus exploring Japan. I started watching, anime just to learn some few words. I downloaded Duolingo to learn sayonara and konnichiwa and all of that. But it was so unreal being there. I still look back at it. It's been 2 years now, but still feels so fresh because the kind of friends I made, and it was kind of my first solo international trip. I usually don't travel a lot without my parents, and they were also really scared when I had to go. I was almost on the verge of not going a day before because I was so scared. I haven't lived away from home ever, and I had to live in dorms there. And dorms, as in this room had like 8 beds.
What?
That small.
Wow.
Yeah. I was really scared, but everything is so systematic in Japan. Everything is so clean and hygienic, and it was so nice.
What business idea were you guys working with?
So we had some industry visits. We thought of, let's say, why pick up a new business idea? Let's solve a problem for these industry giants only. So there was this packaged food manufacturer, gave us their industry visit, took us to their kitchen and made us try all their curries. We gave them an idea of having a bento box that heats on demand. So we made some pitch decks, pitched it in a very nice manner there. The audience loved it. So we had live translation also. Most of the audience was Japanese, who were not very fluent in English. So we had live translation mics also, and I'm glad it worked out for us because there were a lot of questions from Japanese audience on our pitch, and our pitch was mostly in English. Figuring out translation issues was also something I was not expecting, but it was really fun. So yeah, they liked it. They voted for us. We won.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And I think other than being such a cool experience, it would have been a crazy addition to your CV.
Yeah.
And would have really helped you with campus placements. So I want you to set the scene for us about campus placements and how the day was like when you had your consulting interview.
Got it. Yeah, campus placements are, I think, overhyped. But having said that, when you are the candidate sitting for campus placements, it's your world.
Yeah.
Everything does not matter for those 1 or 2 days. Everything is dependent on that one offer. So my consulting interview, it was the first company on campus. They shortlisted 30-40 people for different departments. And I could say good batchmates getting shortlisted, and my chances of making it to the final round bleak. But I was let me believe in myself. Same thing happened when I got shortlisted for my DE-Shaw interview as well. I could see smarter people in the shortlist. But I was udhar it worked out, it might work out this time as well. So I just focused on my preparation and my guesstimates and my cases. Had a good conversation with the interviewer, talked about my YouTube in one of the interviews, and the person was very interested in my content more than, starting with the guesstimates and cases. Before that, we talked at length about my content only, not even about my DE-Shaw internship or Nestle internship, but more so about content. That was there. It made me feel comfortable, made me solve the cases and guesstimates in a sane manner and not under pressure. We had 2 rounds, and yeah, we got the offer by the end of the day. They took 11 people in total. I was I'm happy. This worked out on the first day itself. But yeah, I've seen people who, face rejection on and on. I might face it during MBAs. I'm not ready for it, I would say. But yeah, hats off to people who, get rejected and then again appear for interviews with the same enthusiasm and spirit.
Yeah.
It's a huge relief to get placed on campus, honestly. It's underrated because that entire process of reaching out to companies and not having any certainty on when they would come back, if they would come back. On-campus interviews are so well handled by the placement committee. It takes a lot of stress out of your mind. You don't have to worry about, reaching out again. You just have to worry about your own preparation and doing your best in the interviews. So yeah, that was my experience. Felt like a big thing back then, but looking back, I think I could have taken a bit less stress.
But it is such a big thing. Getting placed at the undergrad level at such a good consulting firm, it means a lot. And especially, I can compare it to myself. IPM, of course, you don't have placements after 3 years. So for me, thinking about actually going to work, it's so far away कि अच्छा भी तो MBA है and everything. So I do want to ask you about this. What are your future plans? I will be that uncle auntie. You beta MBA करना है क्या?
Do you want me to say what I tell these uncle aunties, or do you want me to tell you?
No, tell me honestly.
Yeah, honestly, nothing is fixed as of yet. When I entered college, I was really keen on having work experience, which is something that I'm doing right now. And I'm loving my time here at my job, learning new things every day. I will go for my master's. When and where, I'm not sure of that. I'm looking for a global experience because thanks to my Japan experience, I'm really looking forward to having that multicultural setup, which I think is a bit difficult in India to get.
True.
Also, not a lot of academic pressure, which is again a bit difficult to get in India. So I'm eyeing abroad for my master's. Which degree, which country, when, which year, I have no idea.
Okay.
But yeah, let's see how this pans out.
I'm sure you'll do well at whatever you do. And you saying not a lot of academic pressure is crazy because you were like a topper in your school and college, I think.
Yeah, I feel it. Grades are very gameable. I personally feel. You don't have to be smart to score well in college and school. It's just a matter of how you write your story. And extending that point to life in general, you don't have to be the smartest to, ace something. You just have to understand the rules of the game and play it well. That's what I did. I won't say I know everything about finance or let's say valuation. There are batchmates who are killing it in, their roles, studying statistics like crazy even till now, trading in derivatives and working in finance, having CFA and FRM. I won't say I know more than them. It's just that I knew the rules of scoring well better than them. Maybe luck was on my side that I got to score whatever I did. But yeah, I think smartness does not equally grades.
True, yeah.
It's just how well you are at playing that game.
And I think another thing you've gamified is content. Because you're doing so well even though you've just started fully focusing on it and you're doing it besides your work and everything. So talk about that. How did you get into content?
Content started very randomly for me. I was the COVID batch. We were anticipating CUET to start in our batch, but it did not. We got in through DU RAD. My friends got into other colleges in DU through their class 12 board exams. So, because I was a part of this entire coaching culture and, having preference sheets and ranks and coaching centers having their best interest in their own minds and never the students' best interest in their minds, I was so pissed off. I uploaded a video for all of my juniors who were anticipating CUET. I was like, CUET hoga to aisa hoga. And I'm talking so weirdly in that video. It's still on my channel. But I look back at it, every 2 seconds have a cut. But I took that step, I don't know, out of frustration more than initiative. I was really frustrated with all these coaching centers. I was a rebel when I was in the coaching. So if I got my books 1 week late, I'll keep calling them. Where are my books? Where are my books? I pissed them off that way. But yeah, I started that way, just sharing my own experience with these coaching centers and telling students that whatever these coaching centers tell you, that's not written in stone. And they don't even have your best interest in mind. So let's say don't hear whatever they're saying. At least come to me and see what I'm saying because I have been through that. Then I really was enjoying my first semester at college. I uploaded a vlog and somebody commented that we have a lot of vlogs from Delhi University and colleges like SRCC and LSR, but we don't have anything from SSCBS. And that was something that I also couldn't find when I was looking to imagine how my life at CBS would look like. It's only when we started going offline to college and we started having fun. It was not even intentional. I was not like, hey guys, welcome to my channel. It was not like that. I just compiled all of these videos and uploaded them as a vlog. I was really skeptical of what my batchmates would think. I think I still have that fear somewhat deep ridden in me still. But yeah, I started doing it like a digital diary. 1 vlog every semester. I still haven't uploaded my last semester because it'll be too emotional for me to put all of these clips in one video and just say goodbye, bye. So I would still like to believe that it's like an unfinished vlog journey ending at 5th semester. Still looking forward to the last semester at college. It feels like yesterday when I graduated college. That plus every day I used to get some comments on how to prepare for CUET, how did I prepare for general test. I uploaded one video, it blew up, so I was like, let me put out more of these. Of course, I would say I was not the most consistent. I still am not the most consistent with content and all.
I mean, makes sense. You've so much there.
Yeah, so, but yeah, I feel whatever and in whichever way I'm able to contribute, I really enjoy that part. When students come up to me and say that my content helped them with their CUET journey. I got a very detailed mail once from a junior who said that he got calm watching my vlogs during his CUET preparation. So even if I did not teach him accounts or maths or economics, I was like, I contributed positively in someone's life, and that's the point of my channel. I might keep doing that whenever I get time, whenever I become consistent. But yeah, these outcomes are something that kept pushing me forward.
True. Yeah, I think that's a beautiful thing about social media. That's why I think everybody should do social media to an extent, whether we don't have to have a whole personal brand, but just the ability to document your journey, because it's always going to be helpful to somebody. And it's just like having a digital presence. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
When it can also get you so many opportunities and friends, like you were saying.
Yeah.
Like the fact that I'm getting to meet you, you know.
Yes,
we wouldn't be able to do this if social media wasn't there.
Yeah.
It's a great way to connect with people also. Maybe if you're not going to a great college, you can still meet like really cool people outside of your college.
Yes.
And you talked about these coaching centers. So I also was in a coaching center, but I like rarely went. So tell me about these myths that you're busting related to these coaching centers.
Yeah, so coaching centers start from zero for everyone. Everyone does not have to start at the same level. If let's say tomorrow I join a CAT coaching, or let's say anyone else joins the CAT coaching, they don't have to start with what a real number is, what a prime number is, right? So I feel they have a very templatized curriculum for everyone, and it is not customized according to your own journey, which might lead you to wasting a lot of time in preparation and thinking that you're working towards CAT, but in reality you're just wasting time on things that you already know.
True.
And you could have utilized that time to practice harder questions. I feel in that way these coaching centers don't listen to you much, plus they have a lot of students. I heard that one coaching center was starting their Z batch from like A to Z. So they called me, we're starting with the ZA batch. Yeah,
that's crazy.
So I was like, I am not willing to join. But they charge you a lot. They don't pay as much attention to you. It's just a not good return on investment, I feel. Plus, if you're determined enough, you can just study everything for free on YouTube.
So what do you think is like the best way to start preparing for CUET? First, like if someone is watching who's still in school and then preparing for CUET, what like paths did they take?
For CUET, I feel get good with your class 12 subjects. See if you want to take general test or not. Take a mock with zero preparation. Don't be scared. You expect a shitty score and you will get a shitty score. Expect good to that mock with that expectation. And see what is your strength. You might be naturally good at verbal. You don't have to do that as much as you would want to do DILR or want. I'm not sure if I'm taking the right
I think
subject names because I think it's more related to CAT. But yeah, just identify your weaknesses. And see, general test is a very small portion. Most of the students don't have to take general tests. So start with firstly identifying which subjects you need to take, and then making your foundation rock solid, making NCERT your base. If you're from a different state board, please go through NCERTs once, and of course previous year questions. I feel it's very easy. You just have to put in the effort and cover the entire syllabus, cover the entire previous year questions, and write enough mocks. It's just 3 simple steps.
Gamifiable.
Yeah.
Like you were saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So once you get into college, just to wrap this up, give me like 1 or 2 core pieces of advice that would be really helpful to someone who's maybe starting college.
For college, I would say don't surround yourself with people who make fun of you for starting something new. Right? Judgment of these people shouldn't influence your own decisions. It did for me. That's why I'm asking you to not let these people's opinions affect you. Second, try as many things as possible in college, because when I have graduated college is when I'm realizing I had so much more time in college and I could have done so much more. So if you are, let's say 18 to 21, please make the most of this time. Make a fool out of yourself. Nobody's going to judge you or expect anything serious out from you. I am only 22, but since I'm working in jobs, I have this entire thing around me that I need to be, more serious in life as I'm heading towards masters and anything. But when you're in college, nobody expects anything out of you. Just make a fool out of yourself. You never know when another fool crosses your path, and you both vibe with each other. I think just try as many things as possible. Make good friends, make good memories, enjoy college life. Don't take so much stress over what others are doing. Everyone has their own journeys and timelines. So just make the most out of whatever you have, and just don't procrastinate, don't be lazy. Very basic stuff.
That's basic.
Yeah.
No, but that's really, really important. The people that you surround yourself with, because I also see that in college. If you surround yourself with the wrong kinds of people, that'll just put you in a trap, and you will stay there forever for those 3 or 4 years of college. So that's probably one of the most important decisions you make there, like as important as your final career decision ki mujhe ye karna hai.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Nishtha. I'm so glad that we were able to talk, and I just know for a fact this is going to help out so many students. And yeah, thank you so much.
I really liked talking to you and really loved your preparation and the questions and the flow of the conversation. Thank you for having me.